and welcome to another episode of the Family Law and Divorce Podcast, Akiona Law, and I am your podcast host, Ululani or Lani Akiona, and with me today is collaborative divorce financial neutral extraordinaire, Jessie Deason.
Thank you
Welcome
so
to
much
the
for having me.
podcast, Jessie.
Thank you.
And Jessie is now she's got a lot of letters underneath her name, and she's going to explain what they are. She is a CFP, CDFA, and EA. She is the founder of Serene Divorce Planning right here in Everett, where she provides specialized financial consulting for those navigating the complexities of divorce and also financial planning for those who are about maybe 10 or 15 years out from retirement. And again, as well as I start off this podcast, she is a financial neutral and collaborative divorce, and we're going to get into that about what is a financial neutral and collaborative divorce and why do you need one. But first, Jessie, could you please explain those acronyms behind your name?
Yes. So I've done a lot of financial education over the years. Financial neutrals come from a lot of different financial backgrounds. I happen to be a financial advisor. So I'm a certified financial planner.
Okay.
I am a certified divorce financial analyst, which is the credential that most of us have, expertise in the divorce process. And then I'm also an enrolled agent, which is a tax designation recognized by the IRS for proficiency in personal taxes.
Oh my gosh. So that just means you're really, really good with numbers, right?
Yep. Yes.
All right, let's just get right into it, Jessie. So what is a financial neutral?
So the financial neutral is a joint hire on the professional team. So the joint hire means that both clients hire the financial neutral. So they're not hired by on one side or the other, they're hired by both clients. And the role of the financial neutral really is to collect financial information and then organize it into what if scenarios. So what if scenarios about the settlement? What if scenarios about the property division? And then if applicable about spousal support or child support. And
Hmm.
these what if scenarios are how clients put their arms around, the potential financial pros and cons of different settlement paths forward.
Okay. Again, so I'm going to repeat that because that's really important. The what if scenarios are the financial pros and cons of a settlement scenario. And I think that's a really clear distinction between that role of a financial neutral and the role of a divorce attorney is that the divorce attorney really can't go into that pros and cons in as much detail as you, the financial neutral, can. A lot of times, when I'm looking at what if scenarios, I'm looking at a single spreadsheet that typically my paralegal has created for me, where she just kind of inputs all the different numbers, right? This is what the house value is worth. This is the bank account as of the date of separation. These are the Kelly Blue Book values for the cars. This is the retirement account. And I can only operate on a very narrow set of facts on what ifs, meaning, what if this is a 50-50 division, but then what if one spouse had 60% of the assets and the other spouse had 40% of the assets? What's the equalizing payment that one spouse needs to give to the other to make it equal? So narrow. And you're talking about what ifs, because you and I worked on a case together, was that, oh my gosh, it was just amazing how we went in real time and we were doing the what ifs.
So in collaborative divorce, one benefit is that you're having real-time discussions and able to look at real-time, scenarios and move numbers around. And so you
Yeah.
get to a spreadsheet, maybe someone's getting the house, the other person's getting other things, and you're able to have a real-time discussion of, what does that actually mean in terms of future taxes? What does
Yeah.
that mean for cash flow? Meaning,
Right.
if someone's going to get the house, what does this mean for their monthly budget moving forward? What does this mean for their ability to pay bills in the future as far as, the amount of cash they're getting? And so, taking a what if this asset and debt division and kind of taking it another layer of what will this mean in so many different perspectives, liquidity, taxes,
Hmm.
et cetera. So people really kind of have a sense of this is what my future will look like if I go this route with this property division and this support scenario.
And that kind of that, and you just answered right there the question about why do I need a financial neutral in my divorce also. And I think another thing, and I can't, maybe you already said this already, but the fact that working with you, you also prepare, like I mentioned earlier, I just have one spreadsheet, it's one tab, whereas you can have multiple tabs. And one thing I've known from working with you that you had this gorgeous tab of restricted uh, stock units, RSUs. And can you talk about that?
Right. So where we live in the Everett area, it's really common that one or sometimes even both spouses will get paid in restricted stock units or RSUs. And so it's a multi-dimensional conversation.
Yeah.
Often we're catching up one spouse, what is an RSU?
Yes.
They've never really maybe they've heard it before, but they might not know. And sometimes even the employee spouse who's earning them isn't quite sure they know what they are. So what is an RSU? And then in the context of divorce, we're often thinking about RSUs as an income stream. But
Yeah.
they're a tricky income stream
Yeah.
because you don't know if you're going to receive it, right? The employee needs to keep working there. They get
Yep.
laid off, they may not get them. And then you don't really know how much it will be because it's based on a share price. And so there's a lot of assumptions that get built in there.
Mhm.
But one value add of a financial neutral is that all the information is presented in a way that's black and white. And so you can understand the assumptions that they made, and each
Right.
client can kind of take that information and process it so that they can make better decisions.
And not only that too, and in terms of being a financial neutral, you don't have any skin in the game. You said something and you said it so you're just you said something along the lines that you're simply providing the facts so people can receive the information to make decisions about it.
Right. So that I think my primary role in a collaborative divorce is just collect and organize financial
Okay.
facts in a way that people can use it to make informed decisions in the divorce process. Yep.
Right. Collect and organize facts so people can use it to make informed financial decisions in the divorce process. And that really
Right.
captures hits the nail on the head of why you need a financial neutral in the divorce and what is it. And one thing to point out too is that again, when I'm an attorney and I'm looking at an asset and debt spreadsheet, or I'm getting one from the other side, there's this inherent amount of distress because I know as an attorney, there's always a little bit of manipulation that you can do with numbers to tweak things to your client's favor. Um, but Jesse's not going to be doing that.
Right. So I try never to make any assumptions, and I try to always explicitly outline any assumptions I have to make. And
That's
so the
true.
work product of of a financial neutral is not biased to favor one person or the over the other. It really is just meant to be a neutral work product that people can build from there.
And I think it goes and tying into the what you said about the because going back to the RSUs, restricted stock units, right? A lot of times, if the spouse who is the wife of the employee that let's say works for Amazon, all of my wife will know is that her husband gets stocks, but to really kind of dive it down and break it out like how the financial neutral does, how Jesse does, again, which is, what are the shares? What are the price per shares? When will it invest? Attorneys can't do that. And if I saw an attorney that did that, unless they had some sort of like fancy letters behind their name, like how you did, I would not trust that. I'd be like, where the heck did you get this from? Where are you pulling these numbers out of your darn butt? All right. But when I get it from you, Jesse, the financial neutral, I can trust that. And not only that, I can ask you like a dozen different questions until I understand how you got that.
And when it's written out in black and white, the employee who's earning them can weigh in with their opinion. work hasn't been going that great. This is the current share price XYZ. I'm worried about the future. I'm worried about
Gotcha.
committing to a settlement based on a certain share price is going to go down. And the other spouse can hear in real time about those concerns, can understand all the assumptions that I've made as the neutral. And okay, this is, as far as dealing with this uncertain income stream, I understand that maybe we should be tackling this as, if and when it's received, we somehow share it. Instead of I understand now it's not a given. And I need to be mindful that these numbers can change and they're absolutely not guaranteed. And so
Right.
both people now can kind of operate with similar understanding.
Hmm. Which is so very helpful. And so switching gears, let's say, okay, let's take me to that first meeting with the financial neutral. So because again, when I'm doing a traditional divorce, I'm telling my client the fact that okay, we're probably to get financial information from the other side, we're gonna have to do this thing called interrogatories and requests for production of documents, which is called discovery for short, which is I'm sending out maybe 120, this comprehensive list of questions, requesting questions that you need to answer, as well as pieces of documents that I want. And I'm going to charge you anywhere from about $7,500 to $10,000 to send out this packet of discovery. Because then when I get that packet back, we've got to go through it, try and understand it. And then if we send your spouse discovery, believe you me, they're going to send it to us. So you're looking at each spouse spending probably about $10,000 a piece just to exchange financial information. And instead of when we have a financial neutral, it's just we send it to you, right?
Right. So there's a tremendous cost savings to hire one neutral person to do the financial data gathering and organizing compared to hiring two different law firms to do it. It's really dollars saved in the client's pocket.
So much more tons of dollars saved. And not only that, you do have one person who is an expert, much more an expert again than attorneys are in understanding numbers, digesting it, and creating these beautiful spreadsheets that not just of one page, one tab, but multiple pages or tabs. But it goes down again to when I'm sending out the discovery quest, I'm telling my clients, you're going to have to produce either 10 years, heaven forbid 10 years, at a minimum, or at a minimum 2 years, but probably maybe even 5 years of credit card statements, bank statements, um, retirement accounts, investment savings accounts, tax returns and W-2s. So again, I'm the financial neutral client. I'm coming to you, my cloud divorce. And I'm like, okay, Jesse, what do I need to send you for my first meeting? Because I've heard I got to send you like 5 years worth of statements, and I don't have the time to do that, Jesse.
And I was like, client, then you'll be relieved to know that for the most part, for our initial kind of go
Yeah.
through, we're just looking for a current statement for every bank, brokerage, and retirement account. Because
Phew.
this is an iterative financial information
Phew.
gathering process. So let's start
Okay.
with that. So we kind of have the lay of the land. What are the accounts? What are they
I,
worth now?
I have a
But
confession
then,
to make. I do
oh,
not know what iterative means.
oh, it just means it's back and forth. We
Okay.
start with this, then we need to pivot a little bit. We get some more. We learn some. We have a
Okay.
discussion. Oh, let's get a little bit more. So we
Okay.
start with kind of
Phew.
what is the lay of the land of our current
Okay.
finances. And then through a series of team meetings with the
Yeah.
attorneys, we find out, okay, well, it turns out someone owned this 401k back when they
Uh,
got married 15 years ago.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it would be helpful information to know what was that account worth back then. So now, okay, employee, why don't you go try to track down that statement. And now
Mhm.
that person knows exactly like why this information's, useful to get. They have some skin in the game. It
Yeah.
clearly plugs into the discussions they've been having. It makes sense compared to for every account just getting 5 years or more. It's such a heavy lift, and you don't even know if you're going to
It
need the
is.
information.
It is. It is. And a lot of, oh my gosh, you don't understand the weight you just took off my shoulders. Because again, I heard that I had to go back and provide 5 years of information, and I don't frankly have the mental energy, the bandwidth, or the time to do that. And to know all I have to do is just give you the present statements, and from there, if we need more, you'll tell me.
Right,
I can
right.
do that. I can
Right.
do
If
it.
we need more, we'll be having discussions where things
Yeah,
come up and you can see
yeah.
firsthand, this is why this information would be helpful to get. And instead of just blanket requests for information that you are unclear if it's ever even going to be helpful.
Ah, such a time saver. I feel so much better. Okay, but here's another question, right? I'm still
Okay.
pretending to be the client. Okay, but okay, Jesse, I contact that an employer, and that was like 25 years ago, and they don't have a statement anymore from when I started working there. What do I do?
It's a discussion to be had at a team meeting, probably with
Okay,
the attorneys.
okay.
Sometimes there might be a legal way to get that information,
Mhm.
and other times the information is just not available. And so
Yeah,
we have a discussion of, hey, we can't get this information. Is there a way that we can make, an informed
yeah.
estimate of what it might have been?
Okay,
Is there a number that we can maybe do a back of the envelope calculation and it can be good enough?
yeah,
Let's talk about how we see this information potentially impacting a settlement scenario. Because if it's a very small data point
right,
overall,
right.
maybe we now have a perspective of we don't really need it.
Yeah. Okay, I feel better again. Gosh dang it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and there is always information that you can't get and that you wish you
Okay,
had. And
yeah.
that is just the nature of the work. And so you have to move forward with the information you have, make assumptions where you can, and do really just do the best you can. And that just has to be good enough.
Okay. And is there okay, so aside from getting you this not this like not like this 5-inch binder of financial
Right.
information for our first meeting, thank God. What else can I expect at our first meeting? Is there any other document or like maybe a budget I need to prepare?
Yep. So we're collecting documents to substantiate
Okay.
assets,
Hmm.
debts. So I always
Okay.
ask, credit report,
Oh,
recent statement for every credit card.
okay.
And then we're asking for data to substantiate income. So
Okay.
W-2s, year-end pay stubs, recent pay stubs. And then
Recent
the final
expense.
piece is
Wait, how many
a
pay
post.
stubs? How
Oh,
many pay stubs?
so I ask for the last 2 years of year-end pay stubs and then
Okay.
the most current three.
Okay. I
And
can do
that's
that.
because sometimes there are deductions that only happen every other pay period.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the fourth piece is a post-divorce budget. So as a single person, I'm running my own household now. What
Okay.
do I estimate my monthly income will be? What do I estimate my monthly expenses will be? Given all these estimates, am I running a surplus where I have extra that I could save, or do I have a shortfall? I don't have enough income to pay my expenses.
Okay, so when I'm thinking a post-budget report, okay, so right now, again, like I'm freaking out because,
Yeah.
I'm in the family home, I've been a stay-at-home mom. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where I'm going to live. All I know is that I got 2 kids. And so I'm thinking either 3-bedroom place. Like, I don't know. What would you tell me? How can you help me? Help, I'm freaking out.
So I do think the budget exercise is the most difficult piece of the data
Okay.
gathering. And
But
one,
freakouts are
because
common. They're to be expected.
yes,
Okay.
because there are unknowns, right? Especially if you don't know what your housing is going to be,
Yeah.
that's a tricky thing to estimate. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I advise clients, hey, you can always make more than one version. Maybe
Uh-huh.
there's a version where I get the house, maybe there's a version where I'm renting.
Okay.
It
Okay.
never gets submitted and finalized. Aren't any budget police that come after you. It is
Phew.
just kind of an internal tool to help
Okay.
people make decisions. And then we're striving for directional accuracy. So,
Directional accuracy.
right. So,
Okay.
plug in the Netflix, plug in the gas in your
Uh-huh.
car, some things that probably aren't going to
Yeah.
change very much.
Okay.
And then make some good assumptions, if you can, about some of the other categories, health insurance, housing. But we're trying to kind of find a directional amount, not to the dollar, not to
Not
the penny.
not to the penny. Okay. That gives me peace of mind because sometimes I can get so detailed oriented that I'm like, the pennies. I don't know.
Right. So just kind of a
Okay.
general sense of what does it cost to run your own
Big
household.
picture. Just big,
Yep.
big picture, big strokes.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay. Okay, that makes me feel better because I could be in the space where well I don't know. I mean, if I could keep the family home, that would be great, but I don't know if I can afford the mortgage. And that's when you would tell me, okay, well, why don't you do another budget report where maybe you're looking at renting a two or three bedroom apartment or house in Everett. See what that looks
Right.
like.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I can do that because it's essentially just that one item piece is going to change, but everything else stays
Right.
the same.
Right. Yes. And the housing piece, it is so complex and it's often emotionally driven. And, you live there and it's often tied into keeping kids in the same school district. It's tied to being in proximity to work. But we all know it's costs a fortune to live around here.
Hmm.
And so it really, people are often having to make hard trade-offs. The budget
Yeah.
helps you understand what are the trade-offs I might need to make. Yeah, I think
And one,
everybody has a sense that, for taking the same amount of income, stretching across two households,
yeah,
things are going to be tight. You can't
right.
really understand how tight until you run the numbers. So I
Good
find that the
point.
budget exercise, it really gives people some peace of mind and takes away some of the fear and unknown about the future. Here's some things I might be able to expect. And now I have a better sense of I will have to make some trade-offs, but now I can kind of see what those are. I can make this work.
Okay. And you touched upon a really good point about fear of the future because it almost seems like in terms of right the fear of the future is one party is always worried is usually worried about I'm giving away too much. How am I going to know my future is going to be okay? Because I don't want to give away the whole entire farm.
Yeah.
And then the other party is worried that I'm not going to have enough. So how do I know that I'm going to be okay post divorce to move forward? And
I
you're saying
think
that's
that
what the
one great thing about the budgets or working
okay,
with the financial neutral and having the budgets is that
right.
both clients can see the other person's budget estimates.
Oh, okay.
And so not only, have I run the numbers for myself, I can see what
Right.
my spouse has estimated as far as their income and their
Yeah.
expenses. And we encourage people not to kind of nickel and dime the other, and
Yeah.
nitpick expenses because people have different priorities. But it can be a real reality check for the spouse who's married to someone who earns a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
And they might have come to the divorce process thinking, I want to get support of, at least this amount every month.
Uh-huh.
And when they see that budget and they see, okay, my spouse earns quite a bit, but then they pay a lot in tax. And oh
Yeah.
yeah, and they have an expensive housing situation too, because it
Yeah.
costs so freaking much to live around here. And when
Right.
they have to buy groceries, etc., I can see
Hmm.
how much is left over. And now I have a lot more empathy for what it costs for them to manage their own budget month to month. And I have a much more realistic understanding of what they can afford to provide every month. And so I'm much more grounded in the reality of our finances, instead of kind of just floating with a kind of an arbitrary number in mind.
Well, you're floating around and we're like, well, I know he grosses $18,000 a month, so I feel like he should be able to pay me $10,000 in spousal
Right.
support.
Yeah.
But no, because I've seen it too, because I'm like, yeah, he makes a lot of money. And then when you're working with a financial neutral and you see it kind of broken down, you're like, oh, that's where all his money goes. You're like, oh,
Right. Yep. And if we want to keep our kids doing the same activities that
the
they're
same
doing or
activity.
the same
Yeah.
private schools, I can
Mhm.
really start to see in black and white where money is going every month and where we might need to start making some changes.
And but that also touches upon a point too when we're talking about making changes. A lot of times that higher income earning spouse, a lot of their income is being diverted away to investments, retirement planning. So it could be, well, maybe Mr. Husband or whoever, maybe you need to look at cutting down some of these retirement planning until maybe 2 or 3 years post divorce. Do you see that kind of coming up too?
Yes. And I always try to normalize for clients that divorce is, it's a financial hardship.
It
And
is.
there are people who kind of have that engraved yeah, engraved like savings mentality and they've been savers and they've built
Yeah.
this savings muscle and this is a
Yeah.
priority month to month. And to normalize for them, people do reduce their savings or turn
Yeah.
them off completely to free up cash to pay for the cost of divorce, to pay for setting up a second household. And it doesn't mean
Yeah.
you're bad or it doesn't mean you're irresponsible.
Oh,
It means you're realistic. And I give you clients permission to do that because you need to come up with new cash sources, and this is a great way to
Yeah.
do that.
I'm gonna between me and you, right? Me and you here in Zoom, we forget about the listeners. But as I was going through my own divorce of my spouse of 25 years, that was one of the biggest pieces that frustrated me because I knew that I couldn't contribute the maximum amount to my 401k anymore. I had to dial that back down. But my spouse, oh no, he was still contributing, maximum amount plus to his 401k, contributing to savings and such. And he's saying, I don't have any money. And I would be like, yes, you do. You just can't contribute several $1,000s anymore.
Right.
You got to do what I did.
Yeah.
Do what I did, but I did not do a collaborative divorce. It was a litigated divorce, so therein lies the difference. But yes, he was unwilling to approach that reality because he was just so stuck in that savings mentality. And for him, there's fear that goes behind it as well. And that's why, to work with a collaborative divorce team, I think it could have maybe been a bit of a reality check for him that,
Mhm.
things have to change. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, reality testing for him had to come with court, and court is expensive. It's expensive. Much had rather worked with you, Jesse, as my financial neutral. But luckily, I get to work with you in cases in collaborative divorce.
Yeah. It's a pleasure.
So we talked about the budget piece, and then so again, you mentioned that I think it's very important to reiterate again that when they're meeting with you in terms of the budget, for one, don't nitpick the other's budget, and again, it's not something set in stone.
Right. Right. It really is just an internal tool, so kind of internal to the collaborative divorce team, and to collect information and just to inform lots of different areas of of the divorce process and like in all the different aspects of your settlement. So, for example, like when we get to the property division, we're trying to figure out what might happen with the house. Cash flow is a huge component of that. So just like,
Mhm.
money in, expenses out, and can I afford this mortgage? And what
Yeah.
does it mean for maintaining this house
Okay.
and fixing an appliance or doing a new roof?
Right.
Um, and so I might want to keep the house and I might understand it from on the balance sheet. Well, that means I'm giving up retirement or I'm giving up stocks. But I also need to consider that from like a month to month cash flow perspective.
Hmm.
Having like I mentioned before, having the other spouse's budget, and now I have insight into what their finances look like. Now we have a better understanding of what we're spending on our kids every month. I have a better understanding of how much we're each paying on taxes for our income.
Right.
So,
Right.
and it's a lot. So it's I just am way more grounded in the
Ah,
actual details here in,
yes. Yeah, and when you're grounded in your finances, you can move forward and make informed decisions. And
Yep.
again, I trust you because you don't have any skin in the game.
Yep.
So, besides being a financial neutral, what are the other pieces that you can what are the pieces that you can help with in terms of the sphere of divorce or planning?
I think one piece is providing financial education. So
Okay.
it's really common that in a marriage, one spouse was kind of the money manager, finance spouse,
Right.
and then the other spouse contributed to the marriage in other ways. And so often for this one, but even for this one sometimes, there is a financial education that needs to happen of just,
Okay.
what is a restricted stock unit? What is an
Yeah.
IRA? How do you get money out? How are these things taxed? Do you have to be a certain age to get money out? And so just make that financial education kind of definitely helps bring up the less financially savvy spouse to a
Right.
place where they can better participate in the negotiation
Yeah.
or better participate in the process because they kind of can start getting a sense of what are all these things, how
Yeah.
do all these pieces fit into a future picture for me, given
Okay.
my short-term and long-term financial goals. What's a settlement that might be able to achieve those now that I understand, what is a 401k versus my account at BECU? How are those things different?
And you're talking about in the collaborative divorce process.
Collaborative divorce process, but I think CDFAs in general.
Okay.
One huge value add is just financial education and personal finance education. These are things you're not learning in school. like
That's
in
true.
public school. You're not
Right.
learning them at work. And so unless you've had a personal interest, and if you, certainly if you've had a spouse who's been doing this all, you've been kind of doing your own thing and you've not,
Right.
had an opportunity or been incentivized to learn all this stuff. And it's really, wonderful to be able to work with a CDFA who can bring you up to speed, but in the context of divorce.
Okay.
So let's learn about all these things and then talk about them from the lens of divorce.
And again, the CDFA stands for Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. And so you're talking about like, could a client have a mediation coming up? So they need help with settlement. Would they hire a CDFA, you, for example?
Right. So I do work with a lot of individuals
Okay.
in more amicable divorces who are
Okay.
preparing for mediation.
Okay.
I'd say most of them are 10-ish years out from retirement.
Okay.
And so for those clients, retirement readiness is top of mind.
Mhm.
And they're thinking, for the most part, hey, what I get in this settlement is really going to impact the direction of my finances in the future. I work with a lot of spouses who are working part-time or they're not in the workforce. So for
Mhm.
them, the terms of the settlement are really going to dictate their
Yeah.
financial future. And so we're able to kind of run some, what if scenarios in retirement modeling software to see, hey, if you go with a settlement that looks like XYZ, this is what the future might look like. So now you might have some more certainty going back to mediation. You should
Okay.
try to get, X amount, or if you settle for X amount, we feel pretty confident you're going to be able to meet these goals.
Have you, like, in terms of helping a client prepare for mediation, have you been in the situation where the client's like, okay, Jesse, can you be on standby during mediation in case I need you to, run another scenario? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Because that's important. As a divorce attorney, I'll be like, contact Jesse, see if she can do this.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
So helpful. Okay, so if clients want to, they want to work with you, contact you either as a financial neutral in a divorce or as a CDFA, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, to help them prepare for mediation and discuss the retirement planning 10 or 15 years out. What's the settlement proposal going to look like? How can they get a hold of you?
The easiest way to get a hold of me is just to send me an email. So my
Okay.
email is Jessie, Jesse, at sereneplanning.com. Serene planning.com. So send me an email. And I'd be happy to have a discussion, if and how I can add value to your divorce process.
And we'll be sure to include the email in the podcast description as well for people to get a hold of you. And before we sign off, again, what's a fun fact about you that someone wouldn't know just from kind of looking at you?
Oh, fun fact. I'm not very fun these days because I'm in a season of life with little children.
Mm.
But this year I started taking piano lessons
This
as
year?
an adult.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I've always
So,
wanted to learn how to play the piano. Tell me about it. Is it hard?
yeah. Um, it really matters how much you practice.
Okay. Okay. Well, how
Not
often are you
surprising.
practicing? How often are you practicing?
Not as much. And
Okay.
so recently my kids I've had a lot of kid stuff going on,
Yeah.
but I go to a school with my daughter who's 7. She's taking lessons also. And
Oh,
so
how
we
fun.
take lessons concurrently from different teachers, and we each have our little binder,
Yeah.
and we have, she has a little tracker of squares, and she gets to mark off squares
Okay.
as she practices. You fill it all out, you get to choose a prize. So I get to my first lesson, and she says, "Oh, you didn't fill out any squares." And I said, "I'm a grown up. I'm just here to learn from me. I don't need a stuffy or a huge Twix bar. I'm good." But it's been great. It's a fun hobby. This line of work can be a little stressful.
Yeah.
And so it's just nice to have fun and dabble and kind of exercise different parts of my brain.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
Wait, have you and your daughter done a recital yet?
No, we haven't. We're still
Okay.
in early days,
Okay.
but
Early
I
days.
already have an outfit picked out for when I get to do a recital. So it's in the future.
Oh my gosh, you already got an outfit picked out.
Oh yeah,
Okay, are
yeah.
you and her gonna go in matching outfits? Because that'd be so
Oh
cute.
no, she would hate that. So no.
Okay. So what song can you play?
So I, so as part of this is meant to be a fun hobby, I've
Yeah.
been focusing on more just pop music.
Okay.
And so recently I've been working on Panic at the Disco's High Hopes.
I love that. Is a piano by you where you could play it right now?
No.
Ah, shucks. I was gonna say, take us out, Jesse.
Yeah, yeah. It's not quite ready for prime time, but it's fun and it's been great.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. That's amazing. Well, Jesse, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on this episode of the Akiona Law podcast. And I look forward to working with you again in our future collaborative divorce cases. And and to those out there looking for a financial neutral or just looking for some help with either planning for retirement, you're about 10 or 15 years away, or putting together that settlement proposal, contact Jesse at jesse@sereneplanning.com. And again, we'll put the email address in the podcast description. Um, so, to all of my wonderful listeners out there, thank you again for joining me on another episode of the Akiona Law podcast, wherein we talk about anything and everything that intersects with the areas of family law and divorce. And until next time, I'm Lani Akiona, and be well.
The information in this podcast is general advice only and should not in any respect be relied on as specific legal advice.